When disaster strikes, it doesn't just take homes. It takes safety and it takes hope.
Aiden and I, we've stood side by side with families that have lost everything in one moment and became homeless. All it takes is one act of kindness to change everything for them.
And that's why me and my dad started Relief Alliance, to help individuals overcome their toughest moments.
But we can't do it alone. There's families out there right now that need your help.
And for the price of 2 cups of coffee, you can provide a family food, clothes, water, and shelter every single month. Donate today at reliefalliance.org.
That's reliefalliance.org. Please be the hope that a family needs tomorrow. Thank you.
You've spent years taking care of everyone else. Now it's time to take care of your calling. I'm Falon, a streamlining and grounding guide for women who feel unseen and emotionally overwhelmed. I help you turn chaos into calm with simple rituals, supportive tech, and gentle guidance that helps you rediscover your inner power and peace. Because peace and purpose aren't opposites. They're your new power. Ready to rise?
Well, welcome everybody to another Mindful Monday. As it says, we are all on a journey, and sometimes those journeys have challenges. However, with Mindful Mondays, you do not have to face those challenges alone, because we believe that we can do more together, and we are here to support you holistically and without judgment. So thank you for joining us today. Now, let's face it, life is messy, and we often find ourselves in survival mode rather than thriving mode, especially if you are a single mom or a caregiver. Single moms and caregivers excel at putting everyone else's needs first and their needs last, if at all. So our guest today is someone who is all too familiar with the struggle, and after going on her own self-reclamation journey, Falon Grant has gone from survival to sacred living. Falon is a soulful speaker, an intuitive reflector, and sacred encourager who helps women feel seen, heard, and held at every stage of their self-reclamation journey. With a deep well of wisdom rooted in her own lived experience, Falon guides from a place of love, softness, and spiritual clarity, always honoring the power of our stories to unlock truth, healing, and purpose. So please welcome Falon Grant to Mindful Mondays. Thank you for joining us today, Falon.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I love how it's align and elevate. So I'm sure everyone here is ready to align and elevate with you. Can you maybe start by sharing with us a pivotal moment in your journey that sparked your passion for helping women reclaim their stories, and what led you to become a soul mirror?
Yes. So, although there have been many, the one that really stuck out for me was when I became a single mom myself. I don't think anyone who is a single parent or taking care of someone on their own ever intentionally ends up that way, and intentionally wants to be in that position. But I found myself in that position, and I said, I'm going to have to take care of this child primarily on my own, but I know how to be resourceful. And there's no way for me to take time to feel sorry for myself, because I did grow up with a single parent, and this person has schizophrenia. She had 2 children to look after on her own. And I never saw her falter. I never saw, any signs of much, uh, you know, it's hard to explain, but the person, which is my mother, she just always held this very strong, courageous way about her, despite her challenges, despite what she was going through, because she had to do a job. And so I pulled from that. But as life went on and my daughter got older and she was able to become more independent, I realized, wait a minute, I'm not just somebody's mother. I was someone before I became a mother or a caregiver. And what are some things that I can start to do for myself to bring me back to Fallon? Because it's very easy for us to forget about ourselves when you're constantly, you know, taking care of someone else. When your job or your role becomes, or your identity becomes mother or caregiver,
Right.
it's very easy to lose yourself in that. So I made a commitment about 3 years ago to start doing some soul searching, some inner work, some call it shadow work, and take necessary steps, very practical steps, because I didn't have a lot of time, but they're very potent steps that have brought me results. And so I think that was the most pivotal is, okay, I'm going to be doing this alone, but how can I do things a bit differently from the way that I grew up?
Yeah. Now, you mentioned a couple of important things, practical steps and the fact that you didn't have a lot of time. And I know that's a lot of times of what stops people from going on that journey or doing that because they don't feel like they have the time. Can you maybe share with us a little bit of how you started that or what kind of practical steps did you start to take?
So, in all fairness, because, I was also a working mom too, working full time and taking care of a 3 year old. And so I didn't want to sacrifice too much time away from her. So, really, what I would do is before my mommy duties started, I would make it my duty to wake up just 10 minutes earlier, just 10, because we all know that we also need sleep and rest as well.
Yeah.
And so I would take that 10 minutes and I would make sure that I did at least 2 to 3 things every morning. It was non negotiable. One of them was to pray. And see, prayer, everyone has a different definition of what prayer is, but my definition really is more of a way of gratitude.
Yeah.
So I would just literally pray, meaning just giving thanks for waking up, giving thanks for the things that I'm able to do as a result of being alive and being able to breathe on my own, taking care of my child. And I would also write about it. I keep a gratitude journal as well. And I would jot down a few things that meant a lot to me. And it could be as simple as, again, I can breathe on my own. I'm
Yeah.
able to, get up and walk around and without help, aid, or assistance.
I love that too. You mentioned keeping it, simple because a lot of times when people say, what are you thankful for, grateful for some reason our mind goes to, oh, it has to be something big and grand. But as you said, it could be as simple as I woke up today or I'm breathing, um, the roof you have over your head or what you have. So instead of taking it for granted, you took the time to be grateful for it. So I think that's incredible.
Absolutely. There's a song that I heard years ago, and the line never left me. There's a line that in the song where the gentleman says, even on your worst day is someone else's best day. And so I always remembered that because it
Yeah.
gets tough sometimes, you know. Yeah,
Yeah, we all struggle in different ways, and we always think that, we've got it really bad, but I'll guarantee you there's always someone out there that has it worse than you do. But it's
absolutely,
easy to lose sight of those things sometimes.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know in your work, it's also very important for you that the women feel truly seen and heard. So how have you seen the stories of women transform when they get to that point, and why is that important?
So I have a friend that I met through a really tough time when I was actually pregnant. I met her through an organization that helped women that were pregnant, first time mothers. And although we didn't become friends right away, we kept in touch. And, you know, As time went on, we would talk more. And one thing that I would always do with her is no matter what she was going through, I would just always encourage her. And I thrive off of encouraging people. I'd love to see, um, people smile and have almost an aha moment. Even if they can't see and really flesh it out yet. But for someone to see something in them and recognize that light, it's like you can see the light in their eyes when you just give a positive word of encouragement. And so over the years of us talking and then eventually getting together, and her daughter's a bit younger than mine, so as her child grew, she would ask questions about motherhood and sometimes comparing, you know, and her daughter is on the spectrum, and so it's a little bit more challenging for her. But just to see her progression as in the sense of her being a mother, but also her mindset. Because when I met her, she was very, very negative and very scared. Everything would scare her. And so I just kept encouraging her and letting her know that she's doing a very, very, very good job. And just listening to whatever she had to say. Sometimes she just wanted to bounce ideas off of me or just to vent. And to see her now, where she was just going through the motions as a single mom and trying to put herself through school and working a job that she just figured, hey, I have to pay my bills. Fast forward 5 years later, I've introduced her to a platform I think everybody's kind of aware of now, ChatGPT, to start streamlining her growth and her journey back into being a writer. She was an author before she had her child, but she kind of lost sight of that because she was fully engrossed in, parenthood. And through the encouragement that I would give to her and other tips and suggestions on motherhood and just self-care itself and the help of ChatGPT, she has now written 3 more books within the last year, and she's getting ready to release her fourth book, and or sorry, fifth book. And I'm very proud of her because now she'll text me maybe every couple of days, and there's always a positive. How would I say this? Every time she ends her text or her conversation, it's always on a light note. And so just to see the change in her mindset, I'm so grateful and I'm blessed and I'm happy that I kept, you know, just being there for her, showing up for her, and it's a wonderful thing to witness.
Yeah, there's so many things you touched on in there too. One, the thing I've heard you say first is, compare herself. How many times do we get stuck in that role of comparing ourselves to others, which is a huge, a huge mistake. But for some reason, we have a tendency to do it. I don't know whether it's seeking some kind of validation, and it's like, no, hey, when you're good with who you are, not everybody's going to resonate with you, right? And that's okay. But the mindset and changing it to positive. So, yeah, I love how you do that. And it's fun when you can see that. But I know you also touched on something else that some people are quite frankly afraid of. I love AI myself, but obviously it has its good uses when it's used properly and not abused. So, do you want to touch on that a little bit more about how you help integrate that in with your clients?
Absolutely. You know, just like anything else, AI has a duality, just like us. There could be parts of us that we like and we deem as good, and then there's parts of us that we may not like so much and we may deem it as bad. But the reality is, you need to have the good and you need to have the bad. It's the yin and the yang. There has to be an equal and opposite reaction. That's the way it is. And what I've learned is to use, you know, I'll say the word alchemy, but really it just means to transmute or transform one way of thinking to another. So mindset alchemy. That's really what I want to say. And the way I look at it is, well, if I'm the the user of this AI platform, whatever it is, and I am the initiator, that means whoever I am at my core and my intention with that application is what will determine how it's going to be used and what the output will be. So it's not the tool that is so much the issue, it's the initiator. What is the intention behind that initiator when they are utilizing these tools? Because they are there to help, they can help. But again, it always comes back down to you and what is the purpose behind you using the tool. And so I love the tool because it helps me to flesh out ideas. I may run certain things by it, and it helps me to streamline a lot of things. I'm not the most, what would I say? I wouldn't say that I'm the most organized in the sense of writing things in the right, the word is escaping me,
So it
but
doesn't, so it flows in the right, it flows
right.
together. Yeah.
But let's just say, for instance, ChatGPT has a feature where I can use dictate. I no longer have to type it out. Sometimes I do if I feel like it or if I have the time. But there's a lot of times that because I'll get, for instance, I will get a lot of spiritual downloads. I'll get things that just, I believe it's God that comes to me. It's just, it resonates so deeply. So I know it's coming from an authentic place. And sometimes I may want to use some of that for content creation for a YouTube video. But now I no longer need to write everything from scratch. I can use ChatGPT where I'll dictate and I'll just speak into it and literally allow it to structure that information. And so now I have a whole script that's based off of my idea or my information.
Right.
It's still authentic to me and who I am, but it's now, in a sense, refined it. So it's not as scattered or all over the place. And this is where we can use these tools for, just to help a lot and streamline a lot of what we would like to do in our personal lives or our business professional lives. And so,
Yeah, it's like what we used to say in the computer programming world, garbage in, garbage out. If you feed it garbage, you're going to get garbage. And people give it way too much power. And it's like, yes, you can use it, you can talk to it, but you can also reread it and make sure that it sounds like who you are. And if it doesn't, have it rewrite it. Don't just do it to get it done and then spit it out there when, people know obviously that that is not you, right?
yes, that's a really good point too, Laura, because a lot of times, and I've gotten caught with that too in the beginning, especially when I first discovered this platform. It's like, oh my goodness, it can help me with all these ideas and different suggestions, but you don't have to be afraid of tweaking or not taking the first input. You don't need to do that. The more and more that you learn about these tools is the better that you'll get with using it. So the more you use the tool is how you learn more about it and then know how to work with it. Because there are many tools, just like ChatGPT. For instance, I also use Claude. Claude AI is very similar to Chat, but I find that it's a lot better at structure and keeping the pace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus Chat is more conversational, I find. It's a great tool for content creation, right? And I also use Perplexity. Perplexity is brilliant for research, especially deep research. If you don't, gone are the days of going to the library and going to the reference section. I'm in Canada, so back in the day when you needed to research something and you needed reference books, you were not allowed to leave the library with those reference books. So you had to stay there, get what you needed with whatever time you had, and
Right.
keep it moving. We no longer need to do that. We're not in an age anymore where you have to do that. You can if you like, but if you don't have the time, like myself, I'm still a mom in addition to a business owner. So using Perplexity to go through hundreds, if not thousands, of resource material that is already accredited saves me that much more time.
That's funny that you mentioned that because I had never heard of Perplexity until a couple of days ago or so. It was an ad that had kept popping up on my phone. You know how they have these people talking. It's like, oh, I don't even use Google. Everything's on Perplexity. I'm like, so it's nice to know someone that I know is like, oh, okay, so that is legit and it works. But there's so many platforms and stuff out there. But really, you're learning from it, but it's learning from you at the same time. So yeah, lots we can do about that. But anyway, I was just curious about your view, but I know we are here to help people get aligned and elevate. And you often speak about the power of embracing our messy chapters. So, can you share an example from your own life where a challenging experience turned into a key to your healing?
Absolutely. I would say one of the more recent ones was my relationship when it ended with my daughter's father. And for a long time, even after we split, even though I knew it was coming, and I knew even when I was pregnant, I was going to be a single mother, I was very upset with this person. I was resentful. I was pissed off. I didn't understand why this person was treating me or mistreating me um, when I myself no longer had living parents. I was 13 years younger than him. And so I thought that being with an older man would provide more protection or guidance. And I just couldn't understand why this was happening to me until I started to dig inside myself and started asking myself some tough questions. And one of the things that came up during a journal session was a revelation when it came to him. This person that I had entertained and that I was with for 7 years was a reflection of me, meaning I was him and he was me. He was the male version of Falon. One of the things that I complained about with him was how disrespectful he was to women. He didn't hit women, he wasn't physically abusive, but he was emotionally and verbally abusive. He had no problem talking about openly how he felt about women. And I found that hugely insulting at the time, but I stayed. And by the time that I got to a space where we were no longer together and I would do these journaling sessions, I realized that I was disrespectful towards men. For my whole life, I had used men and discarded them like they were just pieces of garbage. That was a huge pill to swallow. Huge.
Imagine, yeah.
I had to dig further and see, well, where's that line of thinking coming from? Where did that come from? And so just seeing that this is coming back from going as far back as, generations, my mother, grandmother, aunts, never seeing them treat men in a respectful manner. This is something that I picked up and thought it was okay. And so there I was. So I had to face myself and realize that I only attracted who I was in a different form because there's no way around it.
Right.
There's no way around it. However you see and feel about yourself, you're going to attract that. So that was a very pivotal moment, and I decided to take ownership of it. I no longer blamed him for the way that he treated me because, in all fairness, that's how I treated myself. I never saw myself, I never acknowledged myself. So, how can you expect someone else to do the same thing if you don't do that for yourself? And so here I am now. Fast forward, this is maybe like 3 years now. I will actually check in with him to see if he's okay. He doesn't always call and check in with his daughter, but I now realize that this person is also going through their own, you know, challenges. They are going through their own uh, demons, inner demons. And what I took from this, the reason why, at first I said, why isn't he at least acknowledging the child and coming around the child. She's such a great child. It had nothing to do with that. Really, I had to realize that the reframe is God has trusted me to be her primary caregiver because mentally and spiritually, I'm more capable of taking on the responsibility of raising a child while he is not there yet. Even though he is 13 years older, he's not. And so I realized that I just needed to be there for her, be there for myself, but be there for him in a way that didn't take away from me and her. Just a simple check in. Hey, how are you? And I kid you not, Laura, that has done wonders for our relationship as co parent.
Yeah.
Just the respect level has gone up. And when it comes to finances, especially when it comes to her, I can trust him to take care of certain things for her. And that's all I could really ask. And so here we are.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, for one, it's tough to do that because a lot of times we grow up in societies where it's just easy to blame everybody else instead of looking at what you did, which is why I had loved one of those books, The Success Principles. And Jack Canfield, principle number one is take 100% ownership in what in what has gone on because you did play a part in it. We all have choices, or we choose one way or the other. But and the other thing, like you mentioned, I don't think there's any magical age. I mean, if you haven't been around the environment or had the opportunity to realize these things and go on a journey, I don't think there's any magical age. A lot of people just think, oh, they're older, they're supposed to know better. Well, depends. If they didn't have that in kind of environment or supportive community and they see no wrong with it, but then things keep going wrong, there's no age limit to that. I don't, you know.
No, there's not. But what I do say is it will come down to desire because you can have two people, siblings that grow up in the same household, and one is a wonderful, citizen, uh, but then the other one is a menace. And
Mhm.
so this now comes down to desire and innately, what do you want? What is your perception, and then what would you like going forward? So the desire has to be there because I didn't grow up with any of these thoughts or reframes, or it was all lack, all scarcity, survival mode. Nope, we gotta get through the day. We gotta get through it moment by moment. That's the way I grew up. But there was always an innate desire to want more, to learn more, to be more. And so I never stopped digging. I never stopped searching. And I'm still always searching for new things that help me to become more well-rounded, more whole. And I love sharing that with other people because I realize that not everybody is there yet and not everybody understands, that no, there is a way out, but you got to go within first.
Yeah, and that's really beautiful too, because I always say if you stop learning, you stop growing, because everything's constantly changing. There's always things out there, and there could be things that's been out there for years that you may have never even known of, but it's like it's now new to you because you're just now hearing about it. But and you mentioned survival mode. So for those who feel stuck in survival mode, what advice would you offer to help them to begin their journey towards sacred living?
So, when you're in the midst of survival mode, it's really tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's hard. Especially in this day and age, I come across so many people that are just, they don't have to say anything, but I can just feel it off of them. The stress level, the anxiety, is this all there is type of deal. And one of the things that I would say, and it may be a little bit tricky in the beginning because you're not used to it, but you will have to find some time to sit by yourself very quietly, no phones, no tablets, no TVs, preferably outside in nature, and give yourself 5 minutes. Sit down quietly for 5 minutes and just observe. Just observe. And sometimes your mind will run wild because you're used to that. The mind is a dangerous place to live. And it's hard to get out of that, right? If you're used
Yep.
to always living up here. But the more and more that you take the time, 5 minutes, just to sit quietly by yourself, And try to listen to your breathing, because that can help a lot if you're used to your mind racing. So if you focus there instead of up here, it'll be easier as time goes on for you to relax. And that's where you're going to have to start. Because when you're in survival mode, your nervous system is dysregulated, which means it's just out of whack. You're constantly, you know, anxious about everything. You can't sit still. But you're going to have to start there. You're going to have to find time, even 5 minutes, to sit down on your own by yourself. Because it's really, you know, when you get to a point where this everything that you are trying to do or be or have is not working, and it's this perpetual cycle, it can take you over. I've seen that because I lived with that. It was very difficult for my mom. And so I would say start with that. Start with sitting down quietly by yourself. And if it's hard to sit by yourself, you can be somewhere where there are people, but not necessarily friends where they'll distract you. Sit in a park where, yes, you'll see other people and other things going on, but just observe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And 5 minutes really is not a lot of time, but I know if people aren't used to it, 5 minutes can even seem a little scary, but it's really not that long. And like you said, with your routine, you started with 10 minutes a day. You're probably up to a lot more than 10 minutes now because it grows, right? Because you find a way to say, oh, I need more of this time. And you find ways to fit it in.
that's right. And even for those of who really can't see themselves doing 5 minutes, you can do 1 minute. It is possible. 1 minute of some deep breaths, literally 4 seconds in, inhale, and see if you can hold that for another 4 seconds and then exhale for 4 seconds. It does wonders.
Oh, it does. Yeah, I do the deep belly breaths where you breathe in through your nose and blow your stomach out, like a balloon, because this is bone. This doesn't expand. And then, hold it and then let it out. And you can feel the oxygen and everything just kind of rush. And it really helps calm and reset the nervous system too.
That's right. And you said something key there. A lot of times when you're under stress, you don't even remember to breathe deep. Most people don't even think about breathing deep until they've been prompted to. And so there's lack of oxygen in the brain. And so if you take that time, just a minute, start with a minute and do that, you will see changes. And better than seeing it, you'll feel the changes. It'll prompt
Yeah.
you to do more. Yeah.
Yeah. I know something else you talk about in your work too is the importance of self-love and emotional intelligence in your personal transformation. How can women cultivate these qualities in their everyday lives? And can you maybe explain to everyone what you consider emotional intelligence?
Hmm. So that one's tough. That one is tough because, I think the misconception is, oh, you learn about emotional intelligence, you start to practice it, and then you're supposed to be perfect. You should never have, you know, episodes, so to speak. And if you do, then something's wrong with you. No, it makes you human.
Yeah.
But the point is to try. When you learn about something and you know it does work, then you just try to lean in that direction little by little each and every time that the moment presents itself. And so I'll give you an example. Hmm. There is a neighbor of mine a few months back. There was I wouldn't say a discrepancy, but there was, so we were at a recital for our daughters. They are good friends. And I find that her daughter is a little bit more attached than my daughter is. And so that would bother me because the child would be clingy and pulling at my child. But my daughter didn't find anything wrong with that. She was fine with it. So right there, I knew that this had to do with some sort of trauma that I had, because it was as if I was seeing or feeling as if the child was doing it to me. That's the way I was internalizing it. At the time, I didn't realize. And so we were at this recital and we were waiting in line to get into the actual auditorium. And I remember the child's mother came over, and we didn't come together. So I was not under the impression we would be sitting together. And so I was in line, and she came after and decided to come with me, as if like to butt in front. And one of my pet peeves is wait your turn.
Yep. Your lack of
And
planning does not constitute my emergency.
and what happened was I ended up spazzing out, in the sense where my voice, I started to not yell, but my voice went up a few octaves, and I said, the line is back there. And what I realized in that moment is not only embarrassment for myself, but for her, because she didn't expect that from me. She's not a stranger. We're not
Right.
friends, but we're not strangers to each other, because our children do play together. And um, unfortunately, that really took her aback, and she ended up sending me a message to say, I'm gonna keep my distance for the time being, because this wasn't the first time that we've had a run-in, but this was the biggest. And of course, in front of people, it makes it even worse. And so I think that was the first, really, the first time that I've actually seen how me not exercising emotional intelligence, how it backfired, and not, it didn't come across in the way that I would have liked it to come across. But that prompted me now to, again, start digging, but also giving myself grace. Because when it comes to self-love, it's very difficult to give yourself grace. You extend it to everyone else, especially your children, especially those of you take care of, and you forget to extend it to yourself. And whether or not you say it, verbalize it, or acknowledge yourself in that way, you'll know, your body knows, and it shows up in different things, maybe chronic neck pain, chronic back pain, that for some reason the doctor can't tell you what's wrong. Again, not telling you all not to go to your doctor, just saying, these are things that really do happen to people. And it's literally because of how you feel about yourself, and or lack thereof. And so I had to learn how to build that muscle of having grace, having love for myself, knowing that it's okay, but how can we correct it next time? So fast forward, we are connected again. We do talk now. But when I find and I feel as if I'm getting that anxiety of, oh, she's crossing the line, because that little Fallon feels that way, I just take a couple of deep breaths, and it's very easy for me to now redirect my feelings, instead of allowing my fear to control what I'm going to say next. And so just knowing that, what, everyone makes mistakes. This is how I felt. I acknowledge myself. I give myself grace and love. But what is one quick thing that I can do in the moment to redirect that fear or anxiety or anger, so then we don't have an episode like that and then you're regretting it later?
So you've recognized your triggers.
So I started to recognize my triggers.
Yeah.
One thing I will say too is I will purposely put distance. So we speak, we see each other, but I make sure that there is boundaries there, and not necessarily even saying it to her. I don't need to. I just know when and where, because again, we're neighbors. And so I may allow myself a little extra time to go get my daughter before she goes to pick up her daughter. So we don't have as much chances of running into each other. And this is not about avoiding the person, but you also have to acknowledge your own boundaries. And sometimes it's not easy to tell someone that, hey, I want to be cordial, but I don't want to be your friend. It's very difficult for someone to take that to not take that personally, because
Right.
the biggest things is people's fears. One of the biggest fears people have is rejection. And so if you have trauma, which we all do, that may not sit well with a lot of people. So there's other ways around it.
Yeah, I always said you got to create those healthy boundaries. It's not necessarily that that person is not everybody's going to be your person, and you don't have to be mean about it. But you have found ways to create that space, or like you said, not run into her as often, which is, definitely good things. But yeah, it's much better than keep putting yourself in a situation that is going to trigger you, and is probably going to wind up bad because it's not good for you or anyone else.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we were talking a little bit before we started. I know we're emphasizing single moms and caregivers because they are the ones that give themselves. I've been there, done that, and I will also tell people ditch perfectionism; it's overrated.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you also work with women in business as well, right? All pretty much all
Yes.
women.
Yes. Yes. So a lot of women that I've been running into lately also work in the wellness space. In I don't know what word to call it other than like in spirituality, energy healers, Reiki, yoga. Um, you
The
know,
ones that everybody calls the woo woo space, and it's
the
like
woo.
I got news for you. There's a lot to be said about woo woo.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so one of the things that I notice with this core group, especially because I consider myself in the group, is that we are so concerned, or so we're so wrapped up in wanting to help other people, and the intention there is to be of service to the utmost. But when it comes to business, especially on the administrative side, we may not be as on top of those things, or um, not as streamlined. And so one of the things that I've noticed is that the intent may be there to be more organized, or have all of our ducks in a row when it comes to that, the admin or keeping track, but it's tough.
Mhm.
And so I realized back in corporate, people would always ask me for help when it came to learning internal software systems, certain applications, especially when it came to AI and other sorts of technology. I was always that person that people would be calling. My boss, in fact, was like, "Hey, we don't need a tech team here anymore. We'll just call Fallon."
That's where the use and abuse comes in. Yeah.
And I'm like, I wonder why they're doing that, but okay, I'll take it. And then later on, realizing again, this also goes back to a part of when you do inner work, you start to see these things, multiple gifts, right? This
Mhm.
is something that I do naturally. Research, I'll search up different tools, use toggle between multiple tools, because it's just fun for me. And then I'll share those resources with other people. And so I'm now in a space where I am helping other women in the same woo woo space, with streamlining their business, the back end of it, so they can focus more on serving their clientele and more time in their actual creativity and their gifts. And it doesn't have to be hard. Technology, we don't have to think of a whole CRM or a whole this monster. Especially if you don't know, you don't understand. Sometimes it can be scary. But I find that I'm able to bridge the two, where let's keep our creativity. Let's also ground our nervous system before we even take anything else on when it comes to learning tech, and then use the most simplest basic tools. That's what I do right now because I'm fresh. I'm a brand new to this space of official entrepreneurialism, right? But I'm implementing tools that I've been using all along and just ramping it up. We're talking about Google Calendar, right? We're talking about the chat GPTs for marketing help, right? Content creation. Um, Notion is a new one that I'm loving right now for organization. I can actually use Notion to build a whole website, and I don't need to build it. They have AI. I can just tell the AI
There's
what
a
I
few
want.
platforms out there, but I met a gentleman the other day that recommended Notion. So, I mean, there are just so
So
many
many.
out there, and it's nice to have someone that has experienced it and that can like help you weed through that.
That's the right word. Weed.
Weed. You have to you have to weed them out, weed through it, and figure out because not everything. It's like anything else. Not everything works for everybody. Some things are more user friendly for some people. It's kind of like your Apple Android thing. I have clients that want to help me. Oh, how do I do this? I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Do you have a Droid or do you have an Apple? I have an Apple. Yes, sorry, can't help you because I am not an Apple person. I can tell you how to download this file and put it in Samsung Music and
Yes.
go, but Apple's a whole a whole different animal and
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it too. Not everything is for everyone, but guess what? There's something for everyone.
That exactly.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just say technology is like a buffet. Pick what you want, leave what you don't.
And don't get wrapped around the axle about it. And people give all of it like way too much power. I've come across people that are just, terrified or feel like they have no control like over Facebook or Instagram. I'm like, you can block people. You cannot accept them as friends. You can absolutely control what's on there and what you see, and it learns what you want to see. So if it's things you don't want to see, guess what? It'll stop popping up in your feed. you know, it's kind of a necessary evil these days, especially since we do so much
Yes.
online. I mean, it is a great way to get out there. But when people put these huge, oh my God, this is horrible ideas, they just get kind of stuck. Let's
Yes.
see.
This is where we have to remember who's the initiator, especially when it comes to AI, because that's, it's almost taken on a life of its own. And, through a lot of propaganda, people become very fearful, right? If they're not actively using it themselves, they're only able to go by what they are being told. And so I say, especially to women that, are maybe just starting out or in the first few years of their business, even wellness practitioners that have been around forever, but they were used to doing things more manual. And now we're in a stage where you don't need to and you're open to it. You just play around with it. Almost everything online, every tech tool or application has a free version.
Oh
Play
yeah.
around and see how you feel, especially energetically. There are certain tools that I know that will probably streamline my business better, but guess what? I don't use it because energetically we do not resonate. And it could be as simple as the interface. I don't like how it looks.
Yeah, if it's something that drains you, then it's just something else that why struggle through something when you don't have to.
That's right. And then chances are you're not going to want to learn. You won't take the time to learn because it's not appeasing to you. It's not appealing, right? And that does matter. I know sometimes people say, "Oh, you got to get over that." No, we're all energy first, my friend. Like it or not,
We are.
everything we see is energy. So if you don't resonate with that right off the bat, chances are you're not going to even go further. You won't even bother learning.
Yeah, and you have to protect your energy. But
So
we have a few minutes left, Fallon. I want to make sure everybody knows because you have a YouTube channel
I
called Change the
do.
Channel 86. I love the whole change the channel. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because that's why I always tell people it's like, stop getting upset about things that are on the TV. Change the channel, turn it off. So I love the name of that. Right.
Yay! So change the channel is really just that. It's changing okay, we just spoke about energy, right?
Mhm.
And so frequency also goes along with that too. If we talk about the radio station or like you said, the TV station, you don't like the program, you change it. So it's the same with the mindset or things that maybe you've been told your whole life. If that no longer resonates with you and you know something's off about that, it just doesn't click anymore, then change the channel, change the mindset channel, right? Start tuning in and tapping into more wealth conscious messaging. That could be as simple as, you know, even when you walk outside. For instance, where I live, I'm in between two worlds. On one side of the street, I'll call them characters. And then, and then on the other side, it's all old money. It's all generational wealth. And I will purposely choose to walk with my daughter or without in those neighborhoods because energetically that brings me more peace and more balance and confirmation that I deserve to be here because I am also a part of this. So it could be as simple as that.
Yeah, I love that, and that's true because, like you said, we don't think about things in those terms, but we really should because everything is energy, frequency, you name it. But a lot of people that haven't heard it, it's like you just have to be more open minded and realize that everything is energy. And you be
Absolutely.
more open minded and learn. Boy, there's a lot out there.
Absolutely. I will say this one last thing is, so when it comes to the channel, YouTube, I talk a lot about that. A lot of the videos that I have posted are about life lessons, lived lessons, a lot of spiritual downloads that I'll get during the day, with throughout the day or prior to, and tie them into real life situations and scenarios and what you can do to change that. Right. All goes back to mindset.
Yeah. And see, and that's incredible because I always think when people can put it into context or something that they've struggled through, how they got over, to me, that just is out there to help other people. And I love when we have people like you and the other guests that are open, they're very transparent, they're ready to share and help make those changes. Because if we didn't have people that do that, you would have even more people stuck or feel like they're by themselves and they're not supported.
Yeah, that's, yeah, very big deal. So I'm grateful to be a part of that collective. And so
And you should
thank
be.
you.
So we have 3 minutes left. Where do you see the future going? What do you want to leave everybody with today?
Just know that whatever you've been through, life challenges, your story means something. It doesn't have to be detrimental. It doesn't. All the things that you've been through are for a purpose, they're for a reason, especially if you've overcome those challenges. Remember that there's always someone behind you, maybe just a few steps shy, that is in the exact same position that you were in a few weeks, a few months, a few years ago, and you have something to offer them.
Yeah.
Your story is your gift. Your pain is tied to your purpose. And so I'll leave
Yep.
you with
And
that.
I know when you work with people, their story plays a lot in with the strategy of when you're helping them. Well, because it's who we are, right? That's what kind of made us who we are is our story. Doesn't mean we
That's right.
can't create a new story. Can't write. It means we can always write a new story. We can change it anytime we want.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just again, it goes back to reframing, mindset alchemy, reframing whatever you have gone through. That's another thing that has helped me is when I journal and I write things down, I'll reframe it. Okay, I went through that. My parents are deceased. They've been deceased for a long time. What have I learned from that? Well, I'm
Right.
able to build empathy. I can have empathy for other people, right?
Yeah.
And see where just being a mirror for them and seeing things that have happened in their life and how it can help them and how they can help others.
Absolutely. Like I always said, together we can do more. So I am so glad you have created that space and thank you for taking the time to share your journey and some of the work you do with us. I know we didn't even get to scratch the surface on some of the other things we do. So I do highly encourage anyone to get in touch with Fallon. This website right here will take you to all of her different social links, right? This is the best one for them to get a hold of you.
Yes. Or YouTube, either one. And YouTube it will also be plugged into this link. So go to this link and find everything.
Yep, that'll work. So, Fallon, thank you very much for sharing that. I hope you all feel a little more aligned and elevated by the wonderful information that Fallon has shared with us. And I want to wish you guys all the rest of a wonderful week. And we will catch you next time on Mindful Mondays.
Thank you.